That night started like any other, quiet, ordinary, comfortable in a way that makes you believe your life is safe. The kind of night you never expect will end up changing everything. I was sitting on the couch folding tiny onesies while the TV played some reality show in the background. My son Noah was asleep in his crib, the baby monitor flickering softly beside me. The apartment smelled faintly of lavender detergent and reheated pasta. It felt peaceful, until Tyler's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. It wasn't unusual for his phone to light up late. He worked at a car dealership and always said customers texted him at weird hours. But this time the name caught my eye. Maddie Kissmark. First, I told myself not to look. Curiosity ruins relationships, right? But something inside me, some quiet voice that had been whispering for months, said, check it. So I did. The screen opened to a message that said, last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about you, face blowing a kiss. My hands went cold. I told myself there had to be a misunderstanding. Maybe a wrong number, a prank. But then I scrolled, and each message chipped away at the world I thought I knew. Photos. Inside jokes. Plans. Memories they'd made while I was home with Noah, exhausted and alone. You make me feel alive, he had written. I stopped breathing for a moment. It's strange. When you imagine finding out someone's cheating, you picture screaming, crying, breaking things. But I just stood there in the kitchen holding his phone, watching the blue glow of betrayal light up my shaking hands. When Tyler came home, he was smiling, carrying takeout, whistling like nothing in the world could touch him. He kissed my forehead and said, you look tired, babe. Long day? I looked at him and thought, you liar. But I didn't say it. Instead, I smiled back and said, dinner smells good. We ate in silence while Noah slept. I kept replaying those messages in my mind, memorizing every line. He talked about work, about some new sale, about how lucky we were to have each other. Every word felt like static, meaningless noise spilling out of someone I didn't recognize anymore. Later that night, when he fell asleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling. The sound of his breathing used to calm me. Now it felt suffocating. I wanted to wake him, to shout, to make him admit it, but something in me refused to give him that satisfaction. Instead, I whispered to myself, remember this. Every word. Every lie. The next morning, I held Noah in my arms and kissed his forehead. His tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and I thought, he deserves better than this. That day I went through the motions, laundry, dishes, cleaning up toys, but inside something had shifted. The girl who believed Tyler's promises was gone. What replaced her was quiet, sharp, steady. In the afternoon, Tyler called from work like always. Hey babe, you need anything from the store? I said, no, we're good, and kept my voice calm. But in my head I was already planning. When he came home that night, he found me sitting on the couch again, folding Noah's clothes. Everything looked normal. He didn't notice the way I didn't meet his eyes. He didn't notice how different the air felt. He kissed me goodnight, told me he loved me. I said it back. But I didn't mean it. Because that night love had turned into something else entirely. A quiet, burning determination. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't even going to ask why. I was going to wait. Watch. And then when the moment was right, I'd walk away. Not as the broken woman he expected, but as someone he'd never be able to touch again. And the best part? He wouldn't even see it coming. The next morning felt strangely calm. I woke before Tyler, sunlight cutting through the blinds, painting quiet lines across the bed. Noah was babbling softly in his crib, his voice innocent, untouched by the chaos waiting in my chest. I made pancakes, the same ones Tyler liked, with too much syrup and not enough patience. My hands moved automatically, whisk, pour, flip. It was almost comforting, doing something normal while knowing the truth sat heavy between us, waiting to be spoken. When Tyler stumbled into the kitchen, hair messy, still half asleep, he smiled. Morning, beautiful. He kissed my forehead. What's all this? Just breakfast, I said, sliding a plate toward him. He sat down, started eating, scrolling through his phone like always. The audacity of it, to sit there acting like everything was fine, almost made me laugh. I waited until he took the first bite before I placed his phone on the table. Who's Maddie? I asked quietly. He froze. His fork clinked against the plate. What are you talking about? I read everything. My voice didn't shake. It was steady, frighteningly steady. For a second I saw panic flicker across his face. Then, as if rehearsed, he sighed. Jess, it's not what you think. It was nothing serious. It just happened. That line. Just happened. As if betrayal were an accident, like slipping on ice or missing a turn. I felt something harden inside me. How long? I asked. He rubbed his face. A few months. I nodded slowly. The silence stretched. I could hear Noah's toy rattling in the other room, faint and rhythmic. A reminder that even in moments like this, life keeps going. I was lonely, Tyler continued, voice small. You were always busy with the baby. I felt ignored. The words hit like stones. Not because they hurt, but because they revealed the kind of man he was, the kind who mistakes love's exhaustion for neglect, who runs the moment things stop being easy. I stood, clearing the table with mechanical calm. You should have talked to me, I said quietly. Not replaced me. He reached out, grabbing my wrist. Jess, please. Don't do this. We can fix it. I love you. I looked at his hand, the same one that had held mine through labor, through sleepless nights, and felt nothing. You already killed what you're trying to save, I said, pulling free. His eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I thought of all the nights I stayed up feeding Noah while he worked late. The lies. The way I doubted myself when my instincts screamed something was wrong. I walked to the bedroom, packed a small bag. Diapers, clothes, formula. I didn't take everything. Just what mattered. When I came back, Tyler was sitting at the table, staring at the phone like it was a bomb that had just gone off. Where are you going? He asked. To start over. Jess, please. You can't just walk out. I can, I said, holding Noah in my arms. And I am. Outside, the morning air felt cold but clean. I strapped Noah into his car seat, heart pounding but steady. As I turned the key, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. Tired eyes, tear-streaked cheeks, but there was something else there too. Strength. Tyler came out onto the porch, still barefoot, calling my name. I didn't look back. The engine hummed softly, and as the car rolled forward, a strange peace settled over me. For months I had been afraid of this moment. Afraid of what leaving would mean. But now I knew it wasn't loss. It was liberation. I drove past the streets we used to walk, the grocery store where he'd meet her, the park where he pretended to be too tired to go with me and Noah. The city blurred, and with every mile the weight on my chest lifted. By the time I reached the highway, I wasn't crying anymore. I just whispered to myself, he doesn't get to break me twice. And I meant it. The first weeks after leaving felt like walking through fog, disoriented, quiet, but somehow cleaner than before. I moved into a small apartment across town. The kind of place people drive by without noticing. Chipped white paint, creaky stairs, and a single flickering hallway light. But for me and Noah, it was freedom. The first night there, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor, rocking Noah in my lap while the city murmured outside the window. He clutched my shirt, eyes heavy, breath slow. I whispered to him, "We're safe now." My voice cracked halfway through, but it was the truth. The next morning, the sunlight hit our walls, bare, uneven, honest. I brewed cheap coffee in a thrift store machine and watched Noah crawl across the faded carpet, chasing dust motes like they were magic. For the first time in months, I smiled without forcing it. Freedom wasn't loud. It was quiet. It came in moments, in waking up without dread, in realizing no one was waiting to lie to me, in making decisions that belonged only to me. Money was tight, but we managed. I picked up night shifts at a grocery store downtown. The manager, Mrs. Carter, was an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes. She taught me how to balance the register and joked that I moved like someone who had lived 3 lives already. Maybe I had. Every night after work, I came home to find Noah asleep, cheeks flushed, his tiny hand gripping his blanket. I'd sit beside him and just watch, that simple piece reminding me why I left, why it was worth every ounce of exhaustion. Some nights I still thought of Tyler. Not with longing, more like curiosity. How someone could take something so pure and trade it for something so shallow. I stopped checking his social media. I didn't need to know. The past was like a locked door, and I had finally thrown away the key. Months passed. I started to change. The mirror showed someone new, tired, yes, but alive. My hair shorter, my smile softer, my eyes clear. I started taking online classes in early childhood education. A dream I'd buried long before Noah was born. It felt good to build something for myself again. Noah turned one in the spring. We celebrated with cupcakes from the discount bakery and balloons taped to the wall. He smeared frosting everywhere, and I laughed until I cried. For a moment I thought, this is happiness. Not the loud movie kind, but the quiet kind that sneaks up on you when you've stopped expecting it. One evening months later I stepped out of work and froze. Across the parking lot stood Tyler, leaning against his car. He looked smaller somehow, or maybe I had just grown. "Hey," he said, voice uncertain. "You look good." I nodded. "Thanks." He glanced at my grocery uniform, at the keys in my hand. "You doing okay?" "I'm doing great." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I think about you sometimes." I met his gaze, calm, unflinching. "That's your problem now." He opened his mouth like he wanted to say more, but I was already walking away. Noah was waiting. My life was waiting. That night, I tucked Noah into bed and turned off the light. The room glowed softly from the street lamp outside, shadows moving gently on the wall. He stirred, then reached out his tiny hand toward my face. "Mama happy?" he whispered, voice heavy with sleep. For a second I felt everything, the pain, the rebuilding, the quiet victories, the strength it took to start over. And then I smiled. "Yeah," I said softly. "Mama's happy." When he fell asleep, I sat by the window with a cup of tea. Rain began to fall, tapping gently against the glass. Outside, the city glimmered, lights reflecting off wet pavement. People rushing home, life moving on. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who believed love could fix everything. She was gone now, but I didn't mourn her. She had done her part. She had survived long enough for me to become someone stronger. Peace didn't come all at once. It came slowly, like the sunrise after a storm. But when it did, it stayed. And as I sat there listening to the rain, I realized I didn't need revenge, closure, or apologies. I just needed this. The sound of my son breathing peacefully in the next room, and the quiet certainty that I had finally come home to myself.